Hi there, welcome to Kneppyinvest. In today's June quarter video, I'm going to be focusing on two companies I haven't looked at much in the past. One of these companies, Butn, is a recent IPO listed on the ASX in July 2021. So it's spending, or just had their 1 year anniversary on the ASX. And the other company, Urbanise, has been around for about 7 years. And to be honest with you, this company hasn't excited me enough for me to do any further research on the company. But the whole point of me doing this video channel or this channel is to share ideas with you. So just because these two companies might not be the sort of companies I would invest in doesn't mean these wouldn't be the companies you would not want to invest in. So hopefully what you hear today will be the impetus for you to do further research on either of these companies if you like what you hear or see. So let's get into it. And the first company we're going to look at is Butn. Now, Butn is pronounced Button. I actually had to go and look at a video of the Butn CEO explaining what the business does, and he called them Butn, so that's what I'll go with. He also mentioned they are not a buy now, pay later company. So apparently there is a bit of confusion out there that this is a buy now, pay later player. But they listed on the ASX July 2021, so they've been around for 1 year as a listed entity. Now they are a SME, which is small to medium-sized enterprise business-to-business transactional funder, and they have three funding options: Butn, which is a factoring or advance invoice payments; Butn Pay, which is buy now, pay later. So they do have that buy now, pay later option, and Butn Now, which is the early settlement of commissions for real estate agents and brokers. They are experiencing some really impressive growth. So $85.4 million of originations for the June quarter, which is up 46% on financial year 21. And the average transaction is approximately about $10,000. So this is a small player in this end. So their loans they are giving out, or their funding options they are giving out to individual companies, is not that high at all. Now onto the June quarter results for Butn. Now the market cap for this company is 22 million. That's at a share price of 14 cents. And the share price has been dropping from the time they listed on the ASX. So I'll show you the chart in the next slide. They have $15.8 million of cash. Now, Butn is the sort of company, because of what they do, you really have to take a look at their Appendix 4C. So they have a lot going on here. And I'm just showing you the cash flow from operating activities. So the majority of companies that do release Appendix 4Cs don't have much in their investing and financing activities. That's not true for Butn, because they are a funding company. I was going to say financing company, but financing sort of company. Receipts to customers, $1.8 million. Now the company is not operating cash flow positive just yet, so $650,000 negative, but you can see interest and other costs of finance paid $618,000. So this sort of company has a lot of debt. And the reason they have a lot of debt is because they are borrowing or lending money. And to lend money, they need to go into debt. So I'm not concerned about the debt they do have on hand, because this is the sort of industry this company is in. And to be honest with you, I'm not even sure looking at the receipts history for this company is relevant. We only have 4 quarters of history here, because they've only been a listed entity on the ASX for 4 quarters, but receipts at least are going up with time. But I'd like to see at least 8 quarters of history to really confirm receipts are going up. At this point in time, receipts do look like they are increasing. But again, we want confirmation on that. And to get confirmation on that, we need at least 1 more year of Appendix 4Cs from this company. Now onto the chart for Butn, and this goes back to when they listed on the ASX in early 2021. The share price has been decreasing fairly regularly since then, from about the 50-cent range all the way down to less than 20 cents. In fact, the lower of the share price was 10 cents. 10 cents tends to be a fairly natural either resistance or support level, and that's actually true for Butn. Share price tried to get below 10 cents on about 4 or 5 separate occasions and failed. Doesn't mean it won't go below 10 cents, because the downtrend is well in place here. This chart is from TradingView. And the only thing I don't like about TradingView is if there's another company in the past that had the ticker code BTN, it will display that chart in this particular chart history. So there was a company with a ticker code BTN up until about 2014, and that's why these moving averages look really weird at the start of these charts. So just ignore that moving average, but it's fairly obvious that the chart or the share price is going down and is in a well-defined downtrend at this point in time. Now on to Urbanise, and Urbanise has a market cap of $41 million. That's at a share price of 73 cents. Now, keep in mind, Urbanise did a fairly big, significant share consolidation in May 2021. It was a 15-to-1 share consolidation. And funny enough, I do remember Urbanise having a much lower share price. So even though the share price is much higher now, in fact, if you take into account that share consolidation, the share price probably is a little bit lower now than what I remember it. Now, in saying that, this was a fairly good quarter for Urbanise. But before I talk about the quarter, what actually does Urbanise do? Now, Urbanise is a provider of cloud-based SaaS platforms for property management. They have a couple of platforms. Strata platform, which is a platform that manages communications and accounting functions for apartment buildings, strata commercial towers, and large housing communities. And the facilities management platform manages repair and maintenance for infrastructure, buildings, residential, and commercial properly. So let's have a look to see how this company is performing in this one quarter, and then we'll have a look at the receipts history. Receipts to customers over $4 million for this particular quarter, which was a significant increase from the other or the first 9 months of this year, because if you look at the year to date, only $13.6 million of receipts. So this was a fairly good quarter in terms of a comparison to the first 3 quarters of the financial year. And the company was operating cash flow positive in this quarter to the tune of $393,000. But if you look at the full financial year, they were negative by $2.8 million. Now, this is an example of a company that releases Appendix 4Cs that doesn't spend a lot of money in investing and financing activities. So that operating cash flow of $393,000, the majority of that fell to the bottom line, and that's why the cash on hand for this business actually rose in this quarter from $3.8 million to $4 million. Now, in the particular commentary of their Appendix 4C, they did show this chart, which reveals the average monthly cash use on a quarterly basis. And the reason I like this sort of chart is it tells me the management is aware of the cash burn, and the priorities are on becoming operating cash flow positive and free cash flow positive, and then, of course, profitable. So they're looking at the average monthly cash use compared to generated for the last 5 years on that quarterly basis. And the most recent quarter was their second best quarter over the past 5 years. The best quarter the company has experienced was the fourth quarter in financial year 20. Now, the best 2 quarters this company has experienced were the fourth quarters or the last quarters of a financial year. So that does make me suspect that potentially the fourth quarters should be the best quarters. So there's a bit of seasonality here, just a possibility, because the fourth quarter in financial year 21 was not the best quarter of that financial year. So there is that possibility. There is a little bit of seasonality here, or potentially the company or the business is turning things around. They have included this trend line, sort of that sloping dotted blue line. But if you take away the first 5 quarters, all the quarters of financial year 2018 and the first quarter of financial year 2019, in fact, you don't even have to exclude that. There really is no trend at play here when it comes to cash burning on a quarterly basis. So we need, or I want to see, this company continue the momentum we've seen in the fourth quarter of financial year 22. Now, onto the receipts history for Urbanise. This goes back to September quarter 2019. Before that, this company wasn't issuing any Appendix 4Cs. And the main thing here with the receipts history is there most definitely is an uptrend. So receipts are climbing fairly slowly, but there is definitely a trend there. Now, if you take away this most recent quarter, which was a record quarter in terms of the last 3 years, $4 million, and you look at the last 5 quarters, receipts look like they could be just going sideways. In fact, if you look at the last about 9 quarters, receipts could be argued are just going sideways. So this little spike in receipts in this June quarter could be just a one-off. And there is that potential in the next few quarters, we might see receipts retract back to about $3 to $3.3 million. So I'd like to see a continual growth in receipts from this last quarter. I'd like to receipts move towards $5 million. If we do that, see that over the next few quarters, that would be good news for this company. That would tell us that this company is a growing company. Now onto the charts for Urbanise, and the first chart here is the weekly chart. going back to the time they listed on the ASX, either in 2014 or 15. Now, when the company did list on the ASX, there was a little bit of hype in this company. That's why you see the share price rising from about $9 to a high of $23. Now, the share price never reached a high of $23 back in 2015 because of that 15-for-1 share consolidation. If you divide 23 by 15, you get a share price just above $1. And I distinctly remember Urbanise share price above $1 and thinking this company is way overvalued, and why is there so much hype around this company? And then that hype died away in 2015. Share price absolutely tanked. It fell from well above $1 to about 3 cents at one point in time in 2018. So a significant decrease in the valuation of this company because they were not performing financially. So over the past 3 or 4 years, you can't really determine much from looking at this chart. So let's have a look at the next chart, which is the daily chart over the past year or so. And in fact, daily chart here is a 2-year daily chart going all the way back to late July 2020. And in fact, from late July 2020 all the way through to July 2021, the share price of Urbanise was in a nice little uptrend, gradually increasing through time, all the way to a high of about $1.75, which was reached in late June, early July last year. And then the sentiment in this company shifted. The trend started to go down in the share price, and the trend or the downtrend in the share price was really confirmed in November of last year at around about $1.30. And then the share price fell from $1.30 all the way to a low of 38 cents, which was reached in early May of this year. But the share price has bounced quite nicely. In fact, the share price has doubled from the low of 38 cents to a share price above 75 cents like now. And there is a possible shift in sentiment. Unfortunately, we haven't seen really high volume coming in over the past 2 months. I would like to see some pretty good volume, and that would be a good sign moving forward for Urbanise. But again, as I mentioned already in this video, the one thing I'd like to see with Urbanise is that continued momentum we saw in the June quarter over the next few quarters. I do suspect there is a possibility we will see receipts pull back towards those low $3 million range, and that would just tell us that this June quarter was just a one-off spike in receipts. That's all I have for this video on Butn and Urbanise, looking at the June quarter reports. First time I've actually talked about either of these companies on this channel. If you have further thoughts you'd like to portray to me or to the viewers of this channel, leave your thoughts, your opinions, your comments in the comment section of this video, particularly if you know one of these companies fairly well. I'd love to hear from you. Anyway, I am not a financial advisor. If you do need financial advice, make sure you seek out someone who is qualified and can speak to your own financial needs. That's it for this video. Have a good day. Bye.